And we are now officially recording this so we can put it up on the website. So thank you guys very much for doing this today. I'd like to introduce you to Edwin and to Stephen, who you see on the screen. And they are the sales representatives for Musco Lighting. They are the experts on helping park professionals solve the problems of lighting in their sports fields, and they have all your answers today. So please use the chat feature on your computer to ask the questions, and we are all going to be monitoring those, and we will hopefully answer those in the moment, and if not, we will get to them at the end so that we can get all your questions answered. And then I will come back at the end and give you a little more information about next week's session. So I will turn it over to Edwin and Stephen. Thank you very much, guys.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Stephen. This is Edwin. We are both reps for Musco Lighting based in Denver, covering Colorado and Wyoming. Edwin and I have both been around in Musco Lighting for 6+ years, nearly 7 years at this point. And just as Mandy was saying, please ask as many questions as you can come up with in the chat section. We'll answer them as we're going along and answer as many of them at the end that we've missed. And super relaxed, so just no question is dumb and there's not a bad time to ask it. So feel free to just jump in on it. So a little bit of background on Musco Lighting. The company as it is now has been around since 1976. So over 40 years at this point. We specialize in sports lighting for athletic facilities. We do everything from Little League fields to the Olympics. But our main focus is recreation, high school, and college sports. But we also do everything, including architecture, transport and infrastructure, a whole variety of different types of lighting scenarios. So actually our first LED project as a company was all the way back in 2008, when we're talking about new lighting methods. And that was actually the White House. We lit the exterior of the White House and still light that to this day. But since 2008, we've been kind of perfecting our LED product and have brought it fully into the sports facilities market and continue to grow that and look and work with folks like yourselves to transform their facilities and improve them and bring LED lighting onto their fields and maybe help them out with maintenance and replace existing systems. So just as a comparison, you know, traditional sports lighting would have been metal halide, incandescent, or even quartz fixtures. And really in the past few years, that has moved completely away and into the LED side of things. So kind of characteristics of the LED light source. You've got instant on and off, energy savings for folks like yourselves. That's a massive deal. Compared to your typical sources like an incandescent or a quartz fixture, it can actually be more than that, 70%. It could be nearly 90% of energy savings over that system. 70% is really over a traditional metal halide system. With the instant on and off, there's also the ability to do light shows on your fields. So let's say you've got a Little League field set up at one of your parks, and you wanted that if a kid scores a home run, the lights start flashing and creating a light show across the field. That's actually a capability now that LED has allowed us to do and bring into the recreation market away from purely pro sports stadiums. Increased life expectancy. A typical metal halide lamp would have lasted for 3,000 to 5,000 hours before it needed to be replaced. That's usually the time period when the lamp itself is starting to lose its efficiency in producing light. And so your light levels on the field are actually dropping down. LED chips can last anywhere up to 500,000 hours plus before you see any sort of noticeable difference in your light level on the field. There are other elements of an LED system that will create maintenance issues, whatever else. So it's a bit of a myth that LED is going to purely solve all of your maintenance headaches, but purely from the light source standpoint, you're not replacing light bulbs. The light bulbs themselves are not dying off as quickly. So there is potential increase for improved life expectancy. Dimming is pretty much a standard option with all LED sports lighting. We offer, ourselves on our base package, 3 levels of dimming right out of the factory. So again, that helps you with your energy savings. We'll get in here in a little bit into light levels and what affects those light levels. And depending on the usage of your field, you might not always need to run your lights at 100%. So there's multiple ways to improve that energy savings. The spill and glare control, that is a major advantage of some LED fixtures, not all of them. We'll go into that a little later. But with dark skies compliance, whatever else, LED can certainly greatly improve the potential for spill and glare control, especially in a sports lighting scenario. And then the flicker free, that's mainly to do with broadcasting. Obviously, broadcasting is not only on the side of a pro stadium anymore. Some of you folks may have streaming services taking place at some of your facilities for people to remotely view games that are going on at some of your sites. And, unfortunately, with the situation we're in now, that might become more of a norm moving forward with sports facilities, even at the recreation level. So a question we get asked a lot is kind of how much light do I need? And so we're going to go in a little bit and explain what we're looking at when we're coming and talking with you guys about your sports lighting projects. So the main measurement of lighting on a sports field is horizontal foot candles. So that's 1 lumen of light over a square foot area. So you'll hear us talking a lot about foot candles today, and that's what that is referencing. Essentially, how much light are you getting from a fixture in a 1 square foot area on your playing surface? So factors that are going to determine that. Type of sport is a big one. Different sports have different speed, ball sizes, intensities. Typically, the smaller the ball, the faster the sport, the faster the ball is traveling in that sport. That's going to affect how much light you need. The level of play is the next key one. Is this recreation? Is it high school? Is it college? Is your facility going to have potentially all 3 of those levels playing on it? Obviously, an adult softball league with slow pitch is going to have different light level requirements compared to colleges, D1, D2 college, where the level of play is much higher, as much as some of those adult softball leagues might like to think their level of play is still college level. The reality is it's not, and you don't need as much light. Then we have IESNA recommendations. There are recommendations out there for how you're meant to light your facility. Both from a pure design standpoint and that all-important foot candle level. So when we're talking with folks and helping them plan for the future and talking with them about what type of foot candle requirements they need, that's our number 1 stop is what are the official recommendations for this sport, for this level of play at this facility. So again, like I said, your amount of light, speed of play, level of play, it's all directly linked together. So as your speed of play, as the speed of the ball the level, the intensity of that play increases, the amount of light increases as well. So just to give you some sort of examples here, you can see recreation levels are obviously a lot lower foot candles than high school, college, or even a pro stadium. Baseball is a great example of that speed of play or level of play. You'll notice for baseball, there's an infield foot candle level and an outfield foot candle level. The infield is always going to be higher. When you're pitching in the infield, the ball is traveling a lot faster than when it's in the air in the outfield towards the fielders. So you need an increased amount of light on that infield area to safely be able to see how the ball is tracking. So again, you can see there's that direct correlation between size of ball, speed of play, and level of play that's going to increase your light levels and cause them to get higher and higher. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a background of what we're considering and what you guys will need to consider as well when you're starting out looking at a sports lighting project.
And a couple of things to add to that. All these are based off of IES lighting recommendations. So these aren't strictly Musco lighting recommendations. These have been studied by, lighting engineers outside of Musco lighting, and this is what they recommend based off their research, what they thought was safest, and what they've seen in person. So that's how we came up with these recommendations. We're following their guidelines that they set. These were set a long time ago. And then another thing to keep in mind as well is uniformities also play a big deal in type of light. Because if you have a 50-foot candle average on the infield, but you're getting 4-to-1 uniformities, 5-to-1 uniformities, the ball's still going to go through some dark spots at some point where it's going to become unsafe. So, and that's not just for baseball or just for soccer. I mean, even in a parking lot or, a port or whatever the case could be, uniformities could play a big factor in how smooth your field looks. And I know a lot of people, when getting lighting, or if they have old lighting at a facility right now, they can see hot spots and dark spots. That's what I'm referring to when I talk about uniformity and how important it is as well when it comes to sports lighting field. Because to keep a field uniform, you're going to need a little bit more lighting than just to say, hey, you're going to get 50-foot candles out here, average, and then that be it. Because if you have 50-foot candles on the field and your uniformities are 5-to-1, 4-to-1, 6-to-1, you are going to have some dark spots, which I know playing sports is not going to be very friendly to the athlete that's out there. And quite honestly, when you're looking at it as a fan, that's when the field doesn't look as crisp and as clean. And especially if you're going to do new lighting, I know that's a big factor, and you want to make sure your facilities, look great when people are out there. And especially if you're spending that type of money, you want to make sure you're getting a good uniform light that's meeting these recommendations set by the IES.
The other major point to that as well is it's at the end of the day, it's all about safety. Safety, and as facility managers yourselves, ensuring that you have a facility that meets all current requirements and reduces any liability that you folks might have as an organization, allowing people to use that field. So just like Edwin's talking about the uniformity and the smoothness of that light, you can, picture yourselves or visualize yourselves if a baseball was coming to you out of the outfield and your uniformity is 5-to-1 and you've got a big dark spot, that ball could go completely into darkness and all of a sudden appear right in front of a kid or right in front of any player on that field. And that's a major safety concern. So first and foremost, your light level, your uniformity on the field are going to be the number one factor you want to consider on your lighting project. Number of poles, number of fixtures is all going to come after you have determined what your foot candle level requirements are, to make sure that you're meeting them with a design that is the safest possible for the players out on that field.
So next, we're going to go into controlling the spill and glare of the LED product. I'm sure a lot of you have seen or driven by a parking lot where they put up some LED fixtures, and they have no control of light, and they're kind of just letting them open face, covering as much area as they can, but also not controlling the light that's needed, and it's supposed to be going to actually on the application. With the LEDs, the light is a lot more intense. I'm sure you guys have noticed. It's a lot more of a bluish type of light. And when you're dealing with 1,000-watt fixtures, 1,200-watt fixtures, I mean, even 150-watt fixtures for architectural lighting or parking lot lighting, if it's not controlled light, it's abusive light. And when you have neighborhoods in the area, that can become a very big deal. And you can set yourself up for failure if that's not something that's taken into account. Just based off the countless meetings that I've been in with neighborhoods, where that's the number one concern is there going to be light into my property? Because if there is, I don't want lighting here. So here's an image of the light energy use, lose, and abuse. If you can see the useful light, that's all light, or that's light that's being directed towards the field, exactly where it's supposed to go, exactly what you paid for, and there's no light that's being shined over to that house, over that neighborhood where that person's standing by. And then you see the abusive light when it's uncontrolled. Not only are you going to be getting spill and glare over to that house, you're also, there's any sort of dark sky requirements in the area, you're also going to be violating that as well. I know there's some areas, especially here in Colorado, that are very, very sensitive to that. And there are some companies that can meet it, and there's plenty others that cannot. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Anyone can show you the reports. When they do a lighting design or any sort of design for a field, they can show you the Candela report as well as the spill. And you can see how much light is going to be lost compared to how much light is actually going to be on the field and is going to be useful without damaging the neighborhoods. So here's an image of kind of, this is Musco's evolution of light control. For the most part, the first two fixtures here are what just about everybody else was doing, where you just had that spun aluminum casing or housing, and then you have a 1,500 watt or 1,000 watt fixture, HID fixture in there. And you can see here through the years, 1977, I think everyone was just probably about on the same playing field. That was one of our first fixtures. You still see that fixture at plenty of sites today. The Sports Cluster 2 was when we started adding inserts in there to help control some of that glare. And then you go into the Sports Cluster 2 level 8. That's where we had actually added a visor around it. So we weren't shining light up into the sky as much as we were in the past. We were actually able to redirect some of it down towards the field without affecting the neighborhoods or affecting the sky as much compared to the generation before. And then you go to 1989, we added just longer visors, controlled it more. And then 2005, which you see at plenty of places, that's our latest, and still to this day we use our HID system, where we were able to redirect up to 60% of the light that was being lost and actually get it on the field. So our visor on this fixture and complete inserts on the inside, we were able to use different NEMA types, different reflections that are all patented technology that allowed us to use less fixtures per field because of how useful we were able to use the light per fixture. And then today, this is a fixture we've been using now since 2016. That's our LED fixture itself. So you can see the visor, the housing of it allows us to be able to control that light source to where you can't even see it from about 100 feet away. You can't see the light source, the glare, and we're able to control the spill. And we'll be able to go into it a little further here or a little deeper on the different types of applications and get solutions we've come up with for places that have very tight spill or that are in tight neighborhoods. So here again, if you can kind of picture that, the last image I showed with the evolution of Musco lighting, these are those exact fixtures from 1977 over to today. So Over 1977, that very first fixture we had, that would produce this. These are all taken from 100 feet away. That could produce about 60,000 candela. To put that into perspective, imagine high beam headlights coming at you. That would say that's probably in the range of the 60,000 candela. So having high beam headlights shining into your house for hours at night when there's sporting events going on probably isn't the most pleasant thing. And that's something we want to bring awareness to when talking LEDs. So then you go year by year, we'll go all the way to our HID. That's the 12,000 candela, where we were able to not lose as much light into both the sky and to the surrounding neighborhoods and redirect it towards the field. That's 12,000 candela. So we were able to drastically reduce it, as you can see, from 1977 to the HID product that we actually still have now. We're about probably 95% LED, but we still have a few HID products that are still going out as of today. And then you go over to our Musco LED system that's today, we're at 500 candela. So all these, like I said, are taken from, I think, 100 or 150 feet away. And you can see the drastic difference here between 1977 and what Musco Lighting has now, with being able to control that glare, that candela, and that spill. And then the manufacturer to the right, I think when we did the report, they were over 100,000 candela. So if you can imagine our technology from 1977, the only difference now is that they have a high-powered LED, I guess, diodes in there that are uncontrolled. And a lot of you have seen those new cars, the BMWs or whatever, that have the LED headlights, where you can see them from a mile away and they're very, very bright. That's pretty much what you're getting when you get a system or a fixture that's uncontrolled. But now you're talking about 1,000 watts worth of that light power being aimed towards a neighborhood, or into a player's eyes for playability, pop flies, or whether it's catching a football out of midair, any of that. Now, if you have someone that's producing that system that's uncontrolled light versus controlled light, that's the difference that you would get there between what Musco Lighting can provide as a solution or what others are providing as well.
So, obviously talking horizontal foot candle level was very important when you're looking and you're planning your project. First thing I said was determining what light do you need on the field. So what light do you need for the speed of play, the type of play going on, etc. The next step really that we're going to look at with you, or you folks should be looking at, is what is the replacement, or what is the new system how's that gonna affect my neighbors? So a lot of the times you'll want to look into whatever your city ordinance is. There will be spill foot candle levels. Often that is 0.5 foot candles at your property line, can even be less than that. But increasingly, cities and zoning boards are putting in requirements for candela values to be met at property lines as well. So it's definitely something to consider. Like Edwin said, everybody can run these calculations. So truly understanding what the needs are of the surrounding area is really important, and making sure that you specify that and require that as part of your planning process, selection process, etc., is going to set you up for success.
So we have a question that just came up. I had someone tell me that some vendors are using indoor fixtures or lamps. What does Musco use? So as far as the fixture that we use, so what Musco Lighting has is we have a Musco patented technology and fixture. No, unless you buy this fixture from Musco Lighting, or from Steven or I, if you're here in our territory, you can't go get this at a Lowe's or distributor store. These are Musco patented fixtures that we use. Every single fixture is aimed and designed for a specific application. So when we're looking at a field, if we come out and we look at your soccer field, and we get to the stage where you guys would like a design, every single one of those fixtures that's on that design that we provide to you has been aimed by our engineers to be site specific. And then once everything arrives on site, like I said, you're going to get the Musco fixture. You're going to get a fixture that's been tested multiple times before it even gets on site. You're going to get a fixture for the most part that's, or not for the most part, but a fixture that's going to be warranted for 25 years, both parts and labor. There's not anyone else that offers anything similar to that. But yeah, as far as our fixture goes, we do partner with Cree Lighting. So Cree Lighting makes our LED chips. Everything beyond that is Musco patented only technology. So we use a fixture that no one else has access to besides Steven and I. You know, if you're purchasing it from a Musco rep here in the area or whoever the local Musco rep is in your state, that's where you would be able to get it. Does that answer your question?
I guess in terms of indoor fixture or lamps, all of our entire system is UL listed. So it's all factory built, tested. It's NEMA 4 rated. So it's rated to be outdoors. The fixtures can be used outdoors or indoors, but they're designed with a system lifespan of a minimum of 25 years. So to put it into perspective, as a company, you know, we have a research and development center where they are testing these fixtures and the components on them in all sorts of weather conditions. They have chambers where they heat the fixtures up to 200 degrees Celsius to see if they catch on fire and can freeze them to -40. So they're designed for the elements. They're everywhere around the world, from the deserts of Dubai to cold regions of Northern Europe and Canada, etc. So it is a UL listed factory system designed to essentially handle all of the elements.
And back to kind of touch base on the difference between spill and glare and candela. So spill and glare are two completely different things that, like Steven was mentioning, is very, very important. If you're standing, let's say 300 feet from this fixture over here on the right, the other LED manufacturers, potentially at 300 feet away, 400 feet away, you're going to get very, very minimal spill on the light level meter, but you're still going to be getting that same effect when you're looking at that field. You're still going to be getting some type of shadow over at that house for hundreds of feet. Honestly, could be, if there's nothing in its way, it could even be up to a mile. You're going to be seeing that exact glare effect. But when you're reading spill, you're not going to be reading anything very high, just because a spill light level meter is a lot different than a candela reading, which, in saying that, any manufacturer can provide a candela reading for you before the system is put in. So if you were looking into, you know, adding sports lighting to one of your facilities, highly, highly recommend asking for that spill and candela, which they go hand in hand with each other. Spill and candela readings at any property line, or even at 100 feet away or 200 feet away. That way, you know what you're going to be getting, and you don't end up with, you know, 60 of these fixtures on the field and the neighborhood being so upset that you're not allowed to use them at night, where we have had cases like that happen.
In fact, we'll just jump into a quick video and we'll talk over it, but it gives you an example of a system here in Colorado where that exact scenario happened at the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. The video is playing, which it's being very slow to do for some reason. But a little context, the project, they installed a system without looking into a lot of these factors other than on-field lighting performance. And they had a lot of neighbors surrounding them that essentially complained and said, you need to turn those lights off, you can't use them. And the university was left with a system that, to keep everyone around them happy, they basically couldn't use. So we had to come in and help them and look at a solution to reduce that spill and glare. So this is just a good example of a photo of what a field really could look like. You know, you can see a pole directly and in line with home plate, which you would not normally see on any sort of sports lighting system. But with properly controlled fixtures in terms of how they're controlling the spill light and the glare, and how you can control the actual light source away from the eyes of players, spectators, neighbors, it opens up the opportunity to try different pole configurations you would never have normally done. But it's just, even from a player standpoint or a neighboring standpoint, it certainly reduces the glare completely.
And if you're interested in watching that video, if you could go to YouTube and just put Musco Lighting, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and it does come up. We're just having some technical difficulties with it playing. But if you are interested, we do have a ton of great videos on YouTube as well, and references, you know, people just like you that care deeply about their fields, where we were able to come in either after the fact, unfortunately, and replace the LED that they just had, or replacing older HID or even newer HID in order for them to meet their city requirements or neighborhood requirements with spill. Because as we know, keeping the neighbors happy while also keeping the players safe and happy, I mean, those are two very, very important key factors when looking at a sports lighting project. And here's another short video that kind of goes into our ball tracker technology. It's something also very unique to Musco Lighting, but I'll let this video kind of explain it a little better. And if you guys have questions after this video, please shoot them in the comment section and we're happy to answer.
Have you ever lost the ball in the lights? It's caused by poorly controlled floodlighting, creating light pollution and blinding glare for players. Musco's TLC for LED with ball tracker technology delivers highly controlled downward light, along with light precisely targeted on Arceo balls. With better contrast against the night sky, glare is eliminated. Players can track the ball's entire flight with ease. Light stays on your field with a curtain of darkness around it. We've revolutionized on-field visibility, but don't take it just from us.
I mean, vision is everything in baseball. You think about hitters, just the whole game. But on the infield, the confidence and having the ability to see what you're doing is everything.
So that ball tracker, you know, keeps the ball fairly white in a dark sky, so it helps you a lot.
It's so easy to track the ball all the way from the bat to the glove.
Like if the ball goes in the air, you're definitely not looking into the light and trying to block it out to see where the light, you know, where the ball comes out of the light. So that's a major difference.
Total light control. The days of losing the ball in the lights are over. Musco, we make it happen. Have you?
So there's the video with our ball tracker, and I'm sure some of you are probably wondering, well, how does that meet any sort of ordinances, or, you know, how is that not causing spill and glare? So there is a sports lighting specification out there as well, that the Dark Sky put out after they did their research on what was the best option for sports lighting without damaging or without abusive light. This was something they did. Like I said, Musco was not a part of it. They had their teams go around to different facilities, you know, test different lighting and see what met their expectations or what they would consider acceptable. And the spec was, I mean, luckily we do know this, but they did choose our facility And they said, you know, in order for us to be happy with sports lighting, because at the end of the day, they knew that fields were going to need to have lighting. They knew that, you know, sporting events were only going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and all these fields were going to need lights to extend the hours. They agreed to make a sports lighting specification to their guidelines. And the amount, I guess, what they based it around was the amount of useful light compared to the amount of abusive light. And with our system, you know, was it 92%, I think 92, 93% of the light is on the field and not being abused. And with those ball trackers, which we have, you know, one per pole, sometimes we'll have two on a couple of the poles. So out of, you know, for example, we'll say out of a field with 100 fixtures, which that's plenty of fixtures. That's more of a college type level. Out of 100 fixtures, only 8 of those would be aimed up as the ball trackers. So you're only having 8 fixtures be considered somewhat, you know, of abusive light compared to in the past where, you know, another LED manufacturer or older HID, all those 100 fixtures would contribute to sky glow, which at the end of the day was what they were trying to get rid of. So that's what they based their specification around. And if that's a big deal in your area or you're looking for another recommendation or guidance, the Dark Sky Association has a sports lighting specification out there that you can find online yourself.
Yeah, just, I guess, jumping now back into some of you're planning a project, whatever else, what considerations to make with the system. Let's start talking about the actual systems themselves, the complete setup, whether that's looking at individual fixtures or a brand new system for a facility. This graphic is really of our system, but I'm going to touch base on a couple of others. Currently, we are the only sports lighting company that offers complete system from foundation to fixtures. But there's lots of considerations to put in place. The first consideration is really what type of foundation is going into the ground. Sometimes there are not even any foundations going in with designs, and this is something to look out for. There's really 3 main pole structure types. You've got direct buried steel or concrete or wooden poles, anchor bolt poles, and slip fit poles with a precast base, which is what our system is. So starting with your direct buried poles, from a maintenance, longevity standpoint, obviously any sort of metal that's in corrosive ground, etc., no matter what type of coating you try and put onto it, is going to corrode over time. Water collects inside pole bases, whether they're direct buried or have concrete in the ground, and that's obviously going to corrode a direct buried steel pole pretty significantly. And the scary aspect of that is it could be happening all underneath the ground and you don't even see it from up top or know it's happening until you potentially have a pole failure. Same thing can be said with wooden poles. You don't see this a lot anymore with new construction projects, but there are still plenty of older systems out there that are still installed on wooden poles. The biggest thing from a maintenance standpoint, I'd say, is wooden poles, again, corrode from the inside out. You don't often notice how bad they can be from the outside. They might look somewhat structurally sound, but if you were to drill a core into that pole, it might come out as complete sawdust. And all it takes is one good storm to bring that down. So testing of wooden poles is pretty important. Anchor bolt poles are probably the next most prevalent for a new system or even an old system. The main failure point for those is the exact same reason that we as a company do not use them. The anchor bolt plate itself, or the anchor plate built onto the pole, is a highly corrosive point. Typically that is a flat surface at the bottom of the pole, which usually collects water around it. And it can be the weld seam at the bottom of that pole that breaks. So that is the main reason we do not use it as a company. If you have any of those, I highly recommend that, especially if they're 15 plus years old, getting into some sort of maintenance schedule of testing them on a basis would be good. And And then the last setup is a slip fit pole setup, which is what we use. We put a precast base into the ground and we slip fit a steel pole over the top of that precast base. At no point is any part of the steel pole underneath grade level. So keeping all of the corrosive material above grade and away from any groundwater or ground minerals that are going to affect it. The other advantage of the precast base is you can auger out a hole and drop your precast base in one day, and the very next day that the concrete around it has cured, you can be standing your pole. There's no 28-day cure period for an anchor bolt or anything like that. So those are kind of the first advantages of a pole system. And it looks like we've got a question. I think Edwin's going to jump in on here.
Yep. So we've got a question. The question is, have you ever installed in a landfill, repurposed to sports fields, and how would that differ for pole longevity or longevity? Sorry. So the pole longevity wouldn't change anything as far as the pole and above, and even the foundation for Musco lighting, it would be the same. We would still have our precast base. The big difference here, and you definitely are going to run into a higher cost for installation, is you're going to have to go to spread footers. So a quick example I can use is I worked on a project here in Loveland, Colorado, where that was the exact case, where we were doing fields on an old landfill, and they had to use, I think it was 10 by 10 spread footers. So they were massive spread footers that have to be reinforced. And it does become a lot more expensive on the installation side. As far as our system though, it would be the exact same. The only thing that could change with ours is we may need to cut our bases, and then externally ground our foundation. But other than that, nothing changes. As far as our warranty is all still the same, a 25-year warranty. So yeah, it's mainly more on the foundation and the cost of the installation and the amount of concrete and all the work that's needed per base.
Again, not knowing 100% what could be in that landfill, there's probably more corrosive material in that area than there would be in, say, a standard field location. So again, ensuring that you're looking at a system that has no metal components below grade in those corrosive environments is really key. And there's another question that just came through about stamped engineered footing drawings. We do provide those as standard with our package, and they're all based on local building codes. So we are not going to send you something that is a generic drawing or anything like that. It is whatever the local government zoning codes are what we are going to design to.
And I would highly recommend getting a geotech report for your facility if you're considering adding sports lighting. You could save yourself, I guess, a lot of change orders that way with a geotech report, where they're doing all the engineering and they're able to get, I guess, their soil report and all that. We will use that and we'll get it stamped by a local state engineer as well in your state. So everything's approved. But yes, a geotech report, it would be very, very important, because if we don't have that, we're just going to base it off of a standard soils. And, more times than not, we're still okay with doing that. But every once in a while, you'll run into either water or very loose soil that starts to cave, and then you run into a whole different issue there. So if you're interested at any of your outdoor facilities, I would highly recommend getting a geotech report done. It doesn't have to be exactly on the field, even if it's on, somewhere in that area. So if there was a building right next to the field that was, installed within the last 5-10 years, I would say that geotech report would work well for your facility or your sports lighting facility.
The next biggest thing for system approach, from a maintenance standpoint for you guys, in my opinion, is remote drivers or integrated drivers in your fixture. So a little earlier on, I said the diodes themselves last a very long time, but there are other parts or other components of an LED sports lighting system, or just LED lights in general, that can fail, that aren't the diodes. the main failure point on any LED fixture, whether it's a parking lot or a sports field, is going to be your driver. So although driver technology has gone through leaps and bounds and are pretty reliable now, depending on the condition of the fixture and how they're installed, how the fixture is designed, they can last for as little as 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or they could be as long as 30 years in longevity. Our system, we remote the drivers away from the fixture. So the driver themselves is kind of like a laptop computer. It's a chipboard. It controls the fixture, regulates them. It's quite temperamental in terms of how it likes to be treated. The LED chips themselves produce an awful lot of heat. It's another myth about LED fixtures is that they don't produce a lot of heat. If you have any LED light bulbs in, say, a living room lamp, if you touch the top of it, it is a lot cooler than a traditional light bulb. But if you put your fingers around the base of that light while it's turned on, you'll notice that it is actually really hot. So at the backside of the LED diodes, they produce a lot of heat. So putting a temperamental component like a driver inside the fixture and behind those diodes just degrades it over time, means it's not going to last as long, and your failure point is also, you know, your failure rate is going to increase. So we remote them away, we make them easy to get to. You don't need a lift to get up to the top of the pole to replace anything. You can get to them with a step ladder. But we'll go into more about our comprehensive warranty here right now. So for our system, we offer a full controls package. You can control your lights online through an app on your phone. You can call a call center 24/7, 365 days a year. You can do anything on it depending on your package of controlling the lights and light shows, changing colors of the lights if that's something you do, or it just gives you a complete overlook of your facility and your various facilities that you might have using all of the exact same system.
And just quick to add on to that, another key feature with our control link is, I know a lot of fields and facilities share the field with a lot of different clubs or, you know, a lot of different teams that practice. With our control link, you're actually able to give each, for example, we'll say each coach their own passcode. And at the end of the week, the month, the year, you can run reports on that one user and see how long they use the lights. So if, you know, I know a lot of times you guys rent your field. So if you need to, you know, charge them for the field rental, whether, like I said, whether it's per week or per day or whatever it is, you can actually go to the report and see exactly when they turned them on, when they turned them off, and run those exact reports. And then you can send that to them kind of as a, you know, a bill, if you like, and then just showing them, hey, this is when you turn them off. This is when your passcode turned them on, and this is when they turn them off. And this is your weekly report. And I know a lot of people have found that is very, very useful, and a lot easier to go to a club and say, here's your report for the month. You know, this is what your usage is, and this is, you know, what you owe us. So that's just kind of adding on to the controlling portion there.
Yep. So another thing to consider as you're planning is what is being offered from a warranty standpoint. We as a company provide a full 25-year parts and labor warranty. So we have more than 300 employees in the company dedicated purely to warranty and maintenance. So as an end user, you're not paying someone to take a lift out there and go up and repair anything. That's all Musco for a full 25 years after you've purchased a system from us.
Yep. So for those 25 years, you're actually not responsible or don't need to add budget for servicing your field, because for those 25 years, we're taking care of it. We're taking that out of your hands. So that's something where if you're able to relocate your money for different priorities, you know, maybe building another soccer field or building another baseball field, instead of worrying about adding maintenance to your budget for the lighting, you're able to prioritize that money for something else that's more useful. Because with our warranty, we're taking that complete 100% parts and labor out of your hands and out of your responsibility, and you're able to focus on your next facility or improving something else. And then here we just have a few project examples. Our presentation So do you guys advertise a time frame? So we've got a question here. It's called, do you guys advertise a time frame to complete repairs and maintenance? As far as the time frame, I mean, it could be 2 days to 3 weeks. It all depends on when you need it done. So we do have our lighting services team that can come out, Musco employees that can come out and do it. Usually the way they're scheduled is they'll go around to certain facilities in the state and kind of, try to hit 6, 7 in a row if possible. But if it's something where we find out Wednesday there's something wrong with your fuel and you have a big tournament happening that weekend, we will pay the local electrician that installed it, because all of our projects are installed by local electricians. We'll pay them to go out there and maintain it or fix anything that's wrong, and we'll ship them the parts. They'll invoice us, and we'll take care of all that without you having to be involved at all, other than just to allow us to get into the facility itself.
So tennis court lighting, you'll see a couple of photos here in a second.
I'll jump straight to it.
Yep. So tennis court lighting, typical recreation is 30-foot candles. That is what we usually recommend. If you've got some high school, and it's pretty good high school for tennis, maybe 50-foot candles is a good recommendation. But we keep all of the poles off the courts. They're all free and away from the playing surface. So if you have existing courts, they're great because you're not having to go in and break up the existing surface. Even in a new system, it's certainly, we consider it better than most options. Your traditional kind of shoebox fixture that goes down the middle of the court, you're getting light around much better angles of the ball as it's coming towards you. So instead of being either playing into the lights as a player on the court and looking up at them, if they are a traditional system with lighting on the actual surface, we keep them away and out of the way of the player's line of sight. But we're also making sure we're hitting the ball from every single angle to make sure that there's no shadows on that ball, which you can get if the lights are, say, only going down the center of the courts and there's no light coming from actually behind where the players are.
And then we have another question. And if that didn't answer your question, please let us know, and we can touch base after this as well, and we can answer plenty more. The next question was, what's the warranty for retrofits if keeping existing poles? So our standard warranty for that is, if it's not an old Musco system, the warranty would be a 10-year. So a complete 10-year warranty for that. If it is an existing Musco old HID, we actually will redo our 25-year warranty from the date that it's retrofitted. So 10 years for non-Musco poles, 25 years for existing Musco poles. And yes, back to the maintenance and repair for, yes, urgent purposes, we will reimburse the local installer or a local contractor to make sure it's done before you need it. So, I mean, we are working off your guys' schedule and your guys' urgency. So as long as you guys let us know, we are more than happy to figure out a way to make it work.
So for light levels being adjusted for the level of play in the field, yes, what we would recommend for that. So with the dimming ability of LED fixtures and the standardized dimming coming with the system, essentially what we would design to is whatever the highest level of play is. Let's just say a college team used one of your baseball fields for games. We would light that field to the college standard. The dimming ability, a standard, it comes with 3 stages: high, medium, and low. If you were to go to medium, that's going to be more around your high school recreation level. So you can dim it down and achieve different levels of light level for different levels of play. Then you're not wasting your energy by lighting it for college when it's just a kickball league using the field for a Saturday evening or something like that. And then a question about USTA tournament lighting. For a group of 2 courts, it should be 4 poles for each. That shouldn't be an issue at all. The biggest thing about USTA light levels is we add additional reading points on the courts. We have to make sure the light levels behind the players are a little brighter than your typical recreation. But absolutely, we light tennis courts for USTA tournaments all the time.
Yep, we have the big facility down in Florida, actually. That is all Musco lighting there, and everything's lit to USTA. As well as the U.S. Open for tennis and everything. All that is Musco lighting.
Yep. We have a great relationship with USDA. We work for them a lot. So a lot of their specification stuff they've developed over the years, and we're very, very aware of that and work on lots of projects like that throughout the year. Just trying to see, did we miss any questions?
I don't think we did.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today and for being engaging, asking lots of questions, and not trying to jump away immediately. But are there any other questions we can help you guys with? Like Edwin said before, here's our contact details. Even if we're not technically covering your territory, you're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we would answer any question you guys have and get you in touch with the right person in your area and get them out to visit you and help you out with your future or current projects.
Yeah, and we're happy to do any sort of budget numbers, in our territory. If it's out of our territory, like Steven said, we'll get you in touch with your local rep. But a lot of projects we work on, are 2 years out, 3 years out, 4 years out. So don't be afraid to reach out to us and just ask for updates. We can meet on site. We can put a package together for you. That way, if you're considering it, we're happy to provide those budget numbers for you to use, and like I said, if it's something you're hoping to do within the next 3-4 years, even if it's, a large complex that you're looking to do in 10 years, we're more than happy to provide with, help you with those budget numbers. And that's a part of what we do. There's no cost for any of that. So please reach out to us, to your local rep. And, we're always happy to help in any way we can.
Yep. Budget numbers, design work, we do not charge for. So again, most of the folks we're working with are municipalities. We understand the CIP process takes a while, and we understand that zoning approval and just planning a project takes a considerable amount of time. So even if it's not something that is going out for bid or you're purchasing in the next year and you think you'd feel bad contacting us about it, don't feel that way. It's not a hassle at all. It's why we're here, why we're employed.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to recognize our sponsors again and thank them for all of their standing by us. And you see all of their logos here: LL Johnson, Professional Turf Products, Toro, Rainbird, and especially you guys today. Thank you from Musco Lighting. Really appreciate it. Want to let you know, because there's a lot of overlap with several of you for next week. I will be out of town again, but there will be a new host for you. Mr. Mick Massey will be your host next week. You will be getting a special email from me with very special instructions on how we're going to do this next week. So if you are interested in being part of the ADA audit information that Mr. Brian Bristow, who is the assistant director in Allen, is going to be presenting. He is a major guru on the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if you have questions, this is where you're going to get your answers. But you need to pay attention to the email that I'm going to send out on how you're going to get that link. So please pay attention. And if you're not signed up for it, please let me know and I'll get you on that list. Again, if you we're planning on getting CEUs for this session, please make sure that I know you were here. There's a couple of you that were missing. And so I hope I've got everybody recorded here. So again, thank you for being with us today, and I won't see you next week. I want to thank everybody for hanging with the PPMA this month, and hopefully you'll be hearing from us soon. And for sure, I will have you all on my email list for information regarding PPMA for next year. But thank you all for your participation. It's been great to do it this way. It's been a whole lot more fun than I thought it was going to be for somebody who's not very technically I'm very technically challenged, but I've learned a lot in doing this. So thanks again, Edwin and Stephen. Really appreciate your time today, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye, everybody.